are nothing more than some chumps. It's time to take you out and kick you straight to the curb. My mission is to silence you and keep the game pure.
Smack, runner, you're nothing but lies. Smack, runner, with weak alibis. Smack, runner, your game is through. Smack, runner, I'm talking to you.
Your skills are weak and incomplete, it's really a joke to think you can get over me without getting smoked. It's time to shut you down and expose your game. My mission is to take you down and level the playing.
Smack, runner, you're nothing but lies. Smack, runner, with weak alibis. Smack, runner, your game is through. Smack, runner, I'm talking to you.
Inconsistencies will always keep you on the run. Your cowardice and greed will always take away your fun. Yeah, I ain't backing down, so you should know this fact. My mission is to stop you and erase your smack.
Smack, runner, you're nothing but lies.
Yeah, turn on the microphone. That makes it better. Welcome back to The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell. You're watching us on the Liberty One Network. It's October 10th, Wednesday night, 2018. And we got a good show for you tonight, folks. I'm going to wait a couple of minutes for the room to populate. I spoke with my congressman. His name is General Jack Bergman, former Marine Corps general, last weekend. And he told me some really wonderful news. That he's going to support legislation that will name the names of 264 Republican and Democratic members of the House of Representatives and the Senate who've been charged with Me Too crimes, rape and sexual harassment, discrimination, stuff like that. And we're going to get to that in just a minute, along with my special guest tonight, Peter D'Ambrosco. He's a senior editor at Big League Politics, and he was assaulted by an Antifa professor earlier this year, and that man is going to go to trial here very quickly. So let me get this set up for you while I'm pulling up the video that I've spent all day working on. Because you guys know how I like to roll. I want to make the show look as good as possible for you and not waste any of your time. Here we go. Okay. This guy, real sweetheart, by the name of Dwayne Dixon, is going to stand trial for assaulting a Big Leagues Politics editor. Doesn't he look like a real sweetheart, folks? His name is Dwayne Dixon, and the article says here on Big League Politics that an assault case against this far-left leader of the Redneck Revolt a supposed anti-fascist group, will proceed after it was continued at the Chapel Hill Courthouse on Tuesday. Dwayne Dixon is charged with simple assault against Big Leagues Politics editor-in-chief Patrick Howley, stemming from an August 20th riot during which the Silent Sam statue was toppled by frothing Antifa thugs. Howley caught the incident on video. Dixon's trial will be held on November 15th. Let's watch this confrontation between Dixon and Howley.
Dwayne, why did you chase James Fields with a rifle right
You
before he
continue to
crashed
do
into
this.
those people?
Nazis and their Confederate.
Why did you do that, dude?
One, you know it's a falsehood. You know it's a falsehood. You're a falsehood. It's a falsehood. It's a falsehood.
Are you gonna hit me?
No, but why are you running away?
You gonna hit me?
Take this down, please. You gonna hit me? Why are you such a coward? Why are you such a coward?
I'm not.
Why are you a coward?
Yo.
Dwayne.
No, he's just a coward.
I know he's a coward.
He can't even have
I
a
just asked you a
conversation about
question.
actual facts.
You weren't having a conversation. You assaulted me, dude. You just assaulted me, brother.
Don't call me brother. You and I don't share any kinship.
Yes, we do. We're human beings. We're people of God. And you chased James Fields with a rifle right before he killed someone.
Yeah. What did he do?
Yeah, he's
He
real
killed
jerk.
someone, you fucking moron! Why was he chasing him with a...
There's more, apparently. I thought it was over, but it's not. So Dixon's going to be going to trial on November 15th for assaulting Howley. And my guest Peter D'Ambrosco was there, and he was instrumental in capturing that video with his potato. There's been all kinds of violence that's been perpetrated by the left, and we're going to get into that in depth in just a couple of minutes. People like Loretta Lynch, Maxine Waters, and now Hillary Clinton are urging their supporters to get up in the faces of Republicans and the Trump administration. People and people in general. If you wear a "Make America Great Again" hat, honey, baby, you're a target for these whacked out retards on the left. There's just no other way to describe them. They're mentally ill. And we're going to hear from Senator Rand Paul, who says that he believes that this kind of rhetoric is going to end up in an assassination. Remember Rand Paul and General Jack Bergman, who you're going to also hear from in just a minute. They were at the congressional baseball practice last year when a deranged Bernie bro opened fire and nearly killed the House Majority Whip, Steve Scalise. And there have been other attacks on Republicans. Senator Ted Cruz was chased out of a restaurant by an unruly mob. Florida Attorney General Pam Biondi was chased out of a movie theater by an unruly mob. It's nothing new. Well, it is kind of new, I guess, if you think about it in just like over the last couple of years. But since Barack Obama handed off power to President Trump, they've been at it. They've been ginning up the hatred of the left, and we saw this most recently in Judge Kavanaugh's confirmation. These people were banging on the doors of the Supreme Court and just generally hooting and hollering, and it's all based on a lie. The Democrats have been whipping up weak-minded individuals to do violent things against Republicans, and people are getting hurt, and it's time that it stopped. And in this episode of The Truth is Viral, we're going to take a look at the violence that's being fomented by the left and Me Too allegations. Some true, some not. You know, a lot of women have been put in jail for making false Me Too allegations. This is unacceptable that they're doing this, and completely acceptable that they're going to jail, because a false allegation is going to ruin somebody's life and cost them tons of money, and it's just something that can't be tolerated. And if we have any time at the end of the show, I'll take your phone calls to see what you think about it. Right now, I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Helen over here in the Libby Room chat room. She's a real sweetheart. And I really do love her to death. Okay. Now, we're going to get to the really fast-paced part of the show right here, just as soon as I can get it. I'm literally doing the work of 4 people at the same time, so forgive me if the live portions don't go as quickly as I would like them to go. And let's see, where is it? There it is. All right. You folks ready to party? Welcome to The Truth is Viral Live on the Liberty One Network.
Places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Keep that frequency clear.
And now it's conspiracy. See, they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute. That powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy buff.
You're watching The Truth is Viral, the only news program on the internet trusted to deliver the truth since 2008. And now, here's your host, Mr. Bobby Powell.
Welcome back to The Truth is Viral, right here on the Liberty One Network. It's Wednesday, October 10th. And, folks, we've got a couple of really important subjects that we're going to tackle tonight. But first, I'd like to remind everybody that the panhandle of Florida and Alabama and the entire southeast United States is being hit right now with a Category 4 hurricane. Hurricane Michael made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane with sustained winds of 155 miles an hour and 175 mile per hour gusts. A storm surge came ashore with waves of up to 13 feet in height. It is the strongest hurricane since 1969. So I would appreciate it, and I'm sure that the people of the Gulf Coast would appreciate it if you would keep them in your prayers. So tonight we're going to talk about 2 very important subjects. Last week I spoke with my congressman, his name's General Jack Bergman, about the 264 congressmen, senators, and members of their staff who have been accused of sexual misconduct and have been paid to the tune of $17 million. The identities of these sexual predators have been kept secret due to non-disclosure agreements. And we're also going to talk about the violence on the left with senior reporter for Big League Politics. His name's Peter D'Ambroska. He was assaulted at a rally where they tore down the Silent Sam statue at the University of North Carolina. And his assaulter, Antifa member and a professor at the college, is scheduled to go on trial soon. So we're going to talk to Peter in the second half of the hour, but in the first half of the hour, I want to talk about this Me Too movement. And, last year, at the height of the Me Too movement that had started in Hollywood and ended up with a couple of really bad guys going to prison or being charged anyway. 2 powerful legislators were forced to resign after it was reported that they had sexually abused women on more than one occasion. It started when a photograph surfaced of Minnesota Senator Al Franken groping the breasts of radio host Leanne Tweeden. And it got worse when Tweeden told of Franken forcing himself on her during a USO show in 2006. And then it was reported that Democratic Representative John Conyers from here in Michigan, the longest-serving member of Congress, paid $27,000 to settle a 2015 complaint from a former staffer who said that she was fired after refusing his sexual advances. That money came out of Conyers' taxpayer-funded office budget. But since 1995, there's been a congressional slush fund created by the Congressional Accountability Act, which makes members and their employees anything but accountable. If any member of Congress or a member of their staff is accused of discrimination or sexual abuse or harassment, settlement costs get bankrolled by the taxpayers secretly. The Washington Post reported that the office has paid more than $17 million for 264 separate settlements and awards to federal employees since 1997. Last year, the U.S. Treasury confidentially paid $934,754 to settle sexual harassment and other complaints, but the total amount paid out is estimated to be between $15 and $17 million. Now, those badly needed tax dollars resolved a total of 264 allegations of sexual harassment and discrimination lodged against U.S. congressmen, senators, and their staffs. I keep on repeating these numbers because they're huge. I want to impress upon you how big this is. 264 separate awards. Now, these sexual predators didn't even have to pay the damages out of their own pockets. And because non-disclosure agreements were signed by the victims, nobody ever knew about it. Several congressmen have said that they didn't even know that this slush fund existed, or that their colleagues had been accused of these transgressions. Now, shortly after Franken and Conyers resigned, stripper Stormy Daniels reappeared with her accusations that she'd slept with President Trump, and for nearly 6 months, the lamestream media could talk of nothing else. And poof! Just like that, Me Too movement scandal in Congress came to an abrupt halt, right up until Judge Kavanaugh was getting confirmed. Well, I would like to change that. And with your help, and the backing of brave congressmen like Marine Lieutenant General Jack Bergman, who represents me and the rest of Michigan's 1st Congressional District, we can get rid of these predators in Congress once and for all. Now, I spoke with General Bergman last Friday, and I asked him if he would support or sponsor legislation that would publish the names of these offenders, whose identities had been kept secret by non-disclosure agreements, and this is what he said.
The short answer is there should be total transparency in any of these. Names are named, and there should be not one federal dollar spent on any claim settlement. That is our taxpayers. So, yes, names should be named and no federal money spent.
You know, folks, we've got a social contract with our representatives in the hallowed halls of Congress. We elect them to do our bidding, and they carry out those instructions with some sense of decency and honor. When they fail, as these congressmen have, then they deserve to be replaced. So I need you to join General Bergman and I in a campaign called We Want Names. The American people deserve to know if their elected representatives are out there perving on women or men, and it doesn't matter which side of the aisle they represent. It makes absolutely zero difference if the elected representative is a Republican or a Democrat. The American people, regardless of their political philosophy, deserve to have honorable men and women representing their point of view in Congress. So I need you to send this video to your House representative and both of your senators. Post it on Facebook and Twitter and Spreely.com, forums all over the internet, wherever you go. And remember to share it on your timeline on Facebook and in all of your groups. That's very important. Let them know that we will not allow sexual harassers, rapists, or pedophiles to remain in Congress. Let them know that we expect every penny of the money disbursed to victims to be repaid from the personal funds of the congressmen or senators involved, and that we expect the accused to resign from office. If they refuse to resign, it's incumbent upon the leadership in the House and the Senate to expel these offenders. If you really want to drain the swamp, folks, this is your best opportunity. Share this video under the hashtag #WeWantNames. You know, folks, Me Too allegations of rape or sexual assault are extremely serious charges to make. And I have 2 daughters and 4 granddaughters, so I want them to be believed should somebody ever harm them. and heaven help anybody that ever does. They might never make it to court. But false allegations of rape are common. It happens all the time. Who can forget the Duke lacrosse case where a stripper claimed that 3 of the members of the Duke lacrosse team had raped her? The press piled on and absolutely ruined those men's lives, forced the coach to resign. The accuser, Crystal Magnum, never did spend any time in prison for making those false allegations, but she is now serving 14 to 18 years in prison after murdering her boyfriend.
The woman who falsely accused Duke lacrosse players of raping her is now charged with murder in her boyfriend's death. Crystal Mangum was charged Monday in Durham with first-degree murder and 2 larceny charges. Her boyfriend, 46-year-old Reginald Day, died after nearly 2 weeks at a hospital. Mangum was charged with stabbing him earlier this month.
She's in custody for what was initially a very serious offense, which now has got potentially extremely serious.
Mangum falsely accused Duke University lacrosse players of raping her at a 2006 party at which she was hired as a stripper.
In May, the 1992 convictions of Van Dyke Perry and Gregory Counts for rape, sodomy, and kidnapping were vacated in a New York court. The prosecutors had joined attorneys for Perry and Counts on a motion asking the state Supreme Court judge in Manhattan to vacate the convictions because of new DNA evidence and the woman's revised story. It's every prosecutor's nightmare to convict an innocent person, said Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. This case is a tragedy for all involved. 2 New Yorkers were wrongfully deprived of their liberty during the prime of their lives for a crime that they did not commit. This time can never be returned to them, but with today's exoneration, we hope that we can begin the process of unburdening them and giving them a chance at a brighter, successful future. Perry was 21 and Counts was 19 at the time of their arrests in 1991. Perry was released in 2001 after 11 years in prison, and Counts was released in August 2017 after 26 years. The alleged victim had claimed that she had been forced into a vehicle at knife point near a subway station in Queens. She said Perry and Counts, whom she already knew and who had dealt drugs with her boyfriend, raped her, along with a third man, multiple times in the car and in Central Park when she refused to tell them where her boyfriends were. In Connecticut, 20-year-old Nikki Jovino appeared to roll her eyes in court several times as she was sentenced to 1 year in jail for making false rape allegations against 2 college football players. Jovino, 20 years old, had a sexual encounter with 2 players in Connecticut and later made false rape allegations so that she wouldn't lose a potential boyfriend. She was sentenced Thursday in Bridgeport Superior Court. She pleaded guilty in June to misdemeanor charges of falsely reporting an incident and interfering with police.
News 4's Ken Buva has the story from Connecticut. Ken?
And one of those football players who was falsely accused of raping this woman, he poured out his heart on how this case changed his life. And the woman who made it all up, all she did was roll her eyes.
Anxiety, I have like PTSD from this.
Former college football player Malik St. Hilaire describing for the court how false accusations of rape by 19-year-old Nikki Jovino left him a broken man.
I went from being a college student to sitting at home, expelled, with no classes, no information, and no opportunity to even clear my name.
The statement coming as Jovino, a Long Island native, was sentenced today on charges that she made up rape accusations against St. Hilaire and another football player. Police say the lies stem from a party in October of 2016, when Jovino, who attended Sacred Heart University, told investigators 2 football players from her school raped her in a bathroom at an off-campus party. Taking a plea deal, Jovino admitted this sex was consensual and the rape was a lie which she made up for fear of losing a potential boyfriend who knew she had been with the players. The athletes lost their scholarships and their chance to play. An attorney read one of the victim's statements who did not appear in court.
She accused me of what I believe to be a horrendous, horrific crime out of her own selfish concern. I lost my scholarship, my dream of playing football, and now I am in debt and simply trying to get ahead as best I can.
Jovino did not speak during the sentencing and did not show signs of remorse in court. In fact, she rolled her eyes during parts of the hearing and puckered her lips. But for the former wide receiver, he hopes Jovino learns how serious and how damaging a lie can be.
I just hope that, she knows what she's done and the fact that my life will never be the same.
Now this plea deal makes sure Jovino stays in jail for 1 year and 3 years of probation after that. And the attorney for these athletes say that he might be thinking about suing for monetary damages.
In England, a 25-year-old woman who made a series of false rape claims and sexual assault allegations has been jailed for 10 years. Gemma Beale claims that she was seriously sexually assaulted by 6 men and raped by 9, all strangers, in 4 different incidences over 3 years. The 25-year-old was found guilty in July at Southwark Crown Court of 4 counts of perjury and 4 counts of perverting the course of justice. Sentencing her on Thursday, the judge, Nicholas Lorraine Smith, said, "This trial has revealed that what was not then obvious, that you are a very, very convincing liar and you enjoy being seen as a victim. The prosecution described your life as a construct of bogus victimhood. Madeline Wolf, who was prosecuting, told the court that police spent 6,400 hours investigating Beal's claims at a total cost of £250,000 and a trial cost of at least £109,000. Here in Michigan, a 21-year-old woman who admitted to lying about being raped in a parking lot at Delta College in Bay County, Michigan, has been sentenced to 45 days in jail. Mary Zolkowski, 21, pleaded guilty back in March to falsely reporting a felony. She could have faced up to 4 years in prison and a $2,000 fine, but Bay County Circuit Judge Joseph K. Sheeran had already acknowledged that he'd likely sentence her to probation and not impose a jail sentence. Zolkowski told her mother in February that she had been raped by a stranger. Zolkowski never accused or named any particular individual in the case, but did describe her attacker as a black man. I was assaulted previously, not at Delta's campus, Zolkowski said, and because I was ashamed of circumstances of that, I vented through Delta, which was very wrong of me. I should have been truthful from the beginning, and I used Delta. Police began a lengthy investigation, even though Zolkowski was unwilling to cooperate with it or go through a physical exam. During the investigation, investigators learned that a parolee with sexual assault convictions had been on the campus when the alleged attack occurred. However, that individual denied knowing about the incident and passed a polygraph. As investigators dug deeper, Zolkowski started to change her story until it ultimately fell apart. USA Today reported that Zolkowski was sentenced to 45 days in jail, 2 years probation, a mental health assessment, and an additional 220 days in jail if she violates her probation. The Daily Wire reports that several high school girls, who've been dubbed mean girls, claimed a male student sexually assaulted them because they just don't like him. Now the school district and district attorney are facing heat over the fact that neither punished the young women at all. And the boys' parents, Michael J. and Alicia Flood, are suing the parents of the 5 girls and the Seneca Valley School District in Pennsylvania over their son's treatment. They say in their 26-page lawsuit that their son was forced to endure multiple court appearances, detention in a juvenile facility, detention at home, the loss of his liberty, and other damages until several of the girls reluctantly admitted that their accusations were false. Their son is now being homeschooled due to the bullying that he received, including signs taped to his back without his knowledge that said predator, according to the lawsuit that was filed last week. The boy was basically being tortured in school by other students and investigators, but the administration was only focused on protecting the girls who were lying, the Flood's attorney, Craig Fishman, told Pennsylvania Live. Once the allegations were proven false, they really didn't care one bit about the male student, and there had been absolutely no repercussions against the girls. One of the girls decided to accuse the boy of sexually assaulting her while she worked as a lifeguard in 2017 because, according to a taped interview obtained by Fishman, I just don't like him. She was named as KS in the lawsuit. The lawsuit states the girls told classmates in October 2017 that she would do anything to get the boy expelled, so she accused him of sexually assaulting her at the pool. A friend of KS who worked at the pool, Megan Villegas, claimed that she was present during the assault. Villegas is the only named defendant and is a graduate of Seneca Valley High School, where the other students attended. The very first real news story that I did as a reporter way back in 1987 was about a false rape accusation that would have sent a young man by the name of Todd Patrick Neely to prison for 20 years. A woman by the name of Linda Zavatsky in Stuart, Florida, had accused Neely of attempted rape and attempted murder, and the prosecutor went along with this. The only problem was that Neely was 15 miles away eating dinner with his family, and he could prove it. Well, I covered this story for about a year, and it was eventually picked up by the Miami Herald and Inside Edition, A Current Affair, and the Lifetime Movie Network even made a movie out of it. It was just such a tragedy what happened to this poor guy. And the prosecuting attorney, Peter Neal, lost his job as a prosecutor for the Martin County State Attorney's Office, and eventually lost his license to practice law. So, folks, yes, these rape allegations are serious, and they can ruin people's lives, cost them tons of money. And if you make a false allegation, well, you might just end up in prison. And not only that, you lessen the experience of people that have really been sexually assaulted. And you make it that much more difficult for them to be believed when they come forward with an accusation that somebody had sexually assaulted them. So please don't do it. It's not only bad for the people that are accused, it's bad for you. And I think it's time now that we switch gears to the violence that's been fomented by top Democrats like Loretta Lynch and Maxine Waters and now Hillary Clinton, who says that there's no civility until they become, once again, the party in power. And they just remind me of a bunch of little babies screaming and crying and throwing a fit. If we don't get our way, well, you never have any peace. So let's go back to Maxine Waters' original statement a few weeks ago that started all this garbage.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome. The people are going to turn on them. They're going to protest. They're going to absolutely harass them until they decide that they're going to tell the president, no, I can't hang with you.
Not in D.C., not in the U.S., not in D.C., not in the U.S., not in D.C., not in the U.S.
During the interview that I conducted with General Bergman last week, he said that Maxine Waters may face sanctions in the House of Representatives for her violent rhetoric.
That kind of behavior is beneath any elected representative at any level. So I would suggest to you that in the 116th Congress, you will see appropriate results.
Of course, Maxine Waters really wasn't the first to say this. Right after the election of President Trump to office, former Attorney General Loretta Lynch called for blood in the streets.
I know that this is a time of great fear and uncertainty for so many people. I know it's a time of concern for people who see our rights being assailed, being trampled on, and even being rolled back. I know that this is difficult, but I remind you that this has never been easy. We have always had to work to move this country forward to achieve the great ideals of our founding fathers. And it has been people, individuals, who have banded together, ordinary people who simply saw what needed to be done and came together and supported those ideals, who have made the difference. They've marched, they've bled. Yes, some of them have died. This is hard. Every good thing is. We have done this before, we can do this again.
And just the other day, Hillary Clinton, the fungus that will not go away, told CNN's Christiane Amanpour that the Democrats cannot be civil to Republicans until they are back in power.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again. But until then, the only thing that the Republicans seem to recognize and respect is strength.
Speaking to Fox News, Senator Rand Paul fears that violent rhetoric like this is going to lead to the assassination of a member of the House or the Senate.
I was there at the ball field when Stephen Scalise almost died from a very, very angry, violent man who was incited really by rhetoric on the left. And this hasn't been reported enough. When he came onto the field with a semi-automatic weapon, firing probably close to 200 shots at us, shooting 5 people and almost killing Steve Scalise, he was yelling, "This is for health care." He also had a list of conservative legislators, Republicans in his pocket that he was willing to kill. So what happens when Democrats say get up in their face, they need to realize that there are a lot of unstable people out there. There are people with anger issues. There are people that are prone to violence. They might even live next door to you. You don't know where these people are. But what we shouldn't do is incite people to violence. But getting up in someone's face really kind of does sound like you want them to get nose to nose with them. And the problem is rational people might back down. But what's going to happen when the guy comes with a gun to a rally or comes with a knife to a rally? There is going to be an assassination if this doesn't ratchet down, and I think the other side needs to really calm the rhetoric down.
I fear that too, because there really are truly mentally unstable people out there. I've had hundreds of death threats on my family. People have threatened to burn my children to death in their beds as they sleep at night, gang rape my wife until she's dead, cut off my testicles, and one guy even threatened to shoot federal agents if they got in his way. I had a guy come from Portland, Oregon, fly to Flint, and then drive another 3 hours to my house so he could deliver me a poisoned pizza, just so that he could see the look on my face when he gave it to me. These people are sick, folks. It's real, and they're out there. You need to lock and load and keep your head on a swivel 24 hours a day. And when we come back, we're going to talk with Peter D'Ambrosco. He's a senior reporter for Big League Politics, and he was assaulted during the Silent Sam destruction of a statue in North Carolina, and we're going to see from his firsthand experience what it was like to be surrounded by violent leftists. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
I'm Pete Santilli, and you're watching The Truth is Viral.
Do not click away. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Might be better if I turn the microphone on, huh? Yeah, don't forget to go to bobpowell.blogspot.com and hit that PayPal button so that I can continue my mission of saving lives and winning souls for Jesus Christ in these very last days. People need to get the truth, and they're just not getting it from the mainstream media. And the truth is viral, and I sure do appreciate your help. Before we get to our guest tonight, Peter D'Ambrosco of Big League Politics, I want to show you this little clip of CNN's Brooke Baldwin saying that these leftist mobs that are assaulting people aren't really mobs at all. It's ridiculous. Check this woman out.
It's because I believe it's the overreaction of the left. When you see people like Ted Cruz getting chased out of restaurants by a mob.
Oh, you're not going to use the mob word here.
It's totally a mob. It is without a doubt. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's a go watch. Put up the video.
Mob. Stop. A mob is what we saw in Charlottesville, Virginia, 2 August ago.
No,
a mob is not what we saw chasing. I'm not saying what they did was right.
What about the people who were at the Supreme Court banging on the walls? What do you call that? Civil protest? Or is that a mob? I think it's easily a mob.
Yeah, and if it were Tea Partiers, we'd call it a mob for sure. Come on, let's be serious.
Let me move past the M word, because I do feel like that is part of the weaponization of what's happening now on the right. But at the same time, I think you do make a really interesting point.
We're not allowed to say the word mob anymore, folks. I think that my friend Ford Fisher would disagree. Ford was covering Antifa protest in Portland, in Providence the other day, and one of these peaceful protesters threw a bottle of urine on him. I've got the video right here. Poor Ford. He's such a good kid. I love him to death. He had a really bad day. Come on, click and go, click and go. Why won't it go? Come on, technology. Don't mess with me now. Let's try this again. Okay, here we go.
Go home! Go home! Go home! Where's your wolf? Go home! Go home! Go home! Go home! Fuck you!
Eat a dick, you stupid cunt. Antifa just sprayed like urine on everyone's faces. It's absolutely disgusting. I feel like I'm gonna puke.
And here's another mob chasing a guy down the street with metal batons. This is an old guy, an elderly gentleman. Watch him chase him down. They want to murder this man.
No, he needs to stay. Fuck out of here! Get his license plate.
He barely escaped with his life. Then there's this guy outside of the Supreme Court calling for murders of police officers.
They're armed and we're not. But there's a lot more of us than there are of them. So I'm gonna say it straight up. When y'all come back, come ready to physically fight these motherfuckers. When y'all come back, if y'all got any guts about you, be ready to fight these motherfuckers and fuck their asses up. When y'all come back, be ready to fuck up a pig. Hello, good night. If y'all ain't ready to fuck up a pig, then you're always gonna be done like this.
Twins don't even know why you're twins. You don't know why no one answered me. I'm still
You got oppressed women up there fighting for Kavanaugh by doing this police work. You got black people up there oppressed by the system fighting for Kavanaugh. You know, that's fucked up. Black folks and women does not even be
So he's going to bring guns back and shoot police officers. Yeah. These are not nice people, folks. And my guest tonight has had personal experience with these animals. And I'm going to pull him up in just a second here. Yeah, here we go. His name is Peter Diabroska. He's a senior editor at Big Leagues Politics, and he was assaulted during one of these protests, along with Patrick Howley, who's the editor-in-chief over there at Big League Politics. Peter, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir, I can. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's my pleasure and my honor to have you on to share the truth about these violent radicals. Can you tell me at the Silent Sam protest what happened?
Sure. So we have frequently covered these Silent Sam protests. I would call them riots, really. They get violent every time we're there. And the mainstream press never covers that, so we make it a point to get into the middle of the violent mob. Yes, I'm using the M word that the mainstream press now says we can't use. The last time we were there, I believe, was August 28th, somewhere in that vicinity. It was about a week after the Silent Sam statue had been toppled. So we went and we were covering the mob rally there, and while we were in the middle of the mob, we were simply filming and asking questions and trying to get these people to engage with us, which they never want to do. They're black clad, they have face masks on, and so forth. My phone was slapped out of my hand twice, which are both assaults. But then, even worse, I got whacked over the head from behind by somebody who is now being prosecuted. The police saw the violence and came to break it up. And when they got to the middle of the mob, they actually took me into custody. So they dragged me across the quad into one of the academic buildings there at UNC, and they brought me inside this building, and there was literally a paramilitary in there. I mean, we're talking there are probably 50 or more armed state troopers, at least with semi-automatic rifles. I'm not sure if they were fully automatic rifles or not, but in full riot gear, helmets, ready to go. And they threw me up against the wall and they cuffed me, and eventually we got to the point where I was like, "Hey, I'm a reporter," and that calmed them down very quickly. At which point they realized it would be a very bad optic to arrest a reporter for filming a violent mob protest. And they took a statement from me about my assaults and sent me on my way. So it was quite the night.
Yeah, I'm showing some video of this right now. I will be in just a second. And tell me something about this guy, Dwight Dixon, the one that assaulted you. What's his deal? Where does he come from? Where does he teach?
Sure. Yeah, so Dwayne Dixon is he didn't assault me. He actually assaulted on a separate rally, but also at UNC. He assaulted Patrick Halley, for which he's going to stand trial next week. No, not next week. I'm sorry, in November. Patrick Halley is our editor-in-chief. Dwayne Dixon is a professor at UNC in his spare time. He teaches cultural anthropology, which is probably one of the most useless classes I have ever heard of. I like to call all of those humanities classes grievance studies, because that's all they do is teach people to be victims. So he's a professor at UNC, but he's better known as the leader of like a militia called the Redneck Revolt, which calls itself an anti-fascist group. But they're the ones that are leading all of this mob violence in the Southeast, particularly at UNC. Now, Dwayne Dixon is famous for the role that he played at the first Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, where he has admitted on several occasions, which you can find online, to waving his rifle at James Fields just before James Fields drove away in a huff and hit and killed Heather Heyer. Dwayne Dixon was charged for having a rifle at a protest for that event, but he has never been charged, even though he is part of the causal connection or chain of events that led to Heather Heyer's death. He has never been charged for that incident. That's really where Dwayne Dixon sort of became famous, I guess you could say. This guy's a scumbag. He's literally the scum of the earth. And he's the one, along with his 6 or 7 sort of professional Antifa friends, that whip these kids up into a mob on these college campuses. And they have these kids go out and be violent, get arrested, and then they basically hire private attorneys for them to get off on these charges. They're total lowlifes. They're just using these UNC kids as props, and the kids don't even know it. They think they're part of something, right? And they feel good about themselves. But yeah, Dwayne Dixon's a total scumbag.
So, what do you think is up with these kids? I mean, they're in college. You would assume that they would know right from wrong. You'd assume that they would be able to tell fake news from what's really going on. I mean, they know how to use the internet, and they've got access to all the same news that you and I have. Yet they follow this false narrative, like the hands up, don't shoot narrative. That was false from the beginning, and that was fostered by members of Congress and the media. And this is just all based on a bunch of lies. Why is it do you think that they just cannot tell the difference between reality and fantasy?
Sure. So I finished undergrad in 2014, right around the time when the hands up, don't shoot and the real social justice PC mob was about to blow up, right? So I didn't experience a ton of this when I was in undergrad, but I can tell you this. What they do on college campuses in particular is they treat victimhood as a currency, right? So the level of victimhood that you have based on your gender or based on your race or based on, wherever you stand in society directly correlates to the amount of social currency you have, right? So if you have, for example, a black lesbian female, right, she would have far more social currency than, let's say, a gay male. A gay white male is below a black lesbian female on this sort of totem pole of victimhood, right? The higher up you are, the more valued your opinions become. So what these kids do is they specifically go out and try to make themselves victims because they think that if they make themselves the highest victim on the totem pole, that their opinions will weigh the most. And the colleges reinforce this behavior by telling these kids, yes, you are victims. Yes, society does hate you. Yes, the odds are stacked against you. When in reality, once they get out there into the actual world, they realize that like everything that they were taught in humanities classes on college campuses isn't real. It's just nonsense. And they paid a whole bunch of money, got into a bunch of debt. And now you're going to have to go out and deal with the real world, which is difficult for everybody, no matter what your color is or gender or, sexual orientation or any of that other nonsense. So they're just rewarding this idiotic behavior.
Okay, so in your opinion, what do you think that we can do to put an end to this? I mean, these kids need some sense slapped into them, and I'm afraid that that's what it's going to come to. The top Democrats in the nation are calling for violence in the streets, and when the dildo and bong brigade comes up against 100 million gun owners that have 400 million guns and 8 trillion rounds of ammunition, I'm afraid they're going to get what they asked for. So, how can we, impress upon them that this is really not a good idea?
Yeah, step one, don't send your kids to college. I mean this in all seriousness. If there are any parents listening out there and you have kids who are teenagers, you're thinking about sending them to college, do not do it. Especially if you're considering paying for it. Send them to trade school, give them let them learn a skill that will be useful that the market demands. Do not send them to these places. They will come out dumber than when they went in. The idea of higher education is totally lost on these universities. All they do is see money, they take it from the kids, and then they give the kids whatever they want to appease them, which turns into this whole social justice mob nonsense, right? Unless you're going to do an actual trade, like you're going to be a doctor or something like that, do not go to college. That's step one. And I think we're actually going to see over the next 5 or 10 years, you're going to see a significant decline in enrollment in undergraduate universities, particularly liberal arts universities, because people are starting to get it, right? These places are ridiculous. Step two, homeschool your kids if you can. Start at an early age, right? Like, try not to have any part of this ridiculous system of academia. But other than, boycotting the education system, I don't know that there's much that we can do. This thing is rotten to the core. It's not going to get better so long as these tenured professors can't get fired, right? And so long as these union tenured teachers in high schools and grammar schools can't get fired. So the only answer I have for that is don't send your kids there. Send them elsewhere. That's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty good idea. I've seen nothing come out of the nation's universities but dumbassery and violence for the last several years, and it really breaks my heart. When I went to college, when I went to college 20 or 30 years ago, this just didn't happen. You learned stuff. It's stuff that was useful, and I'm afraid that a degree in African women's lesbian studies just isn't going to do it. You're going to end, like you said, you're going to end up $50,000 in debt with a degree that nobody needs. Hey, Peter, I'd really like to thank you for coming on The Truth is Viral and sharing your experiences with us tonight. What's the next step for Dwayne Dixon? I understand he's supposed to go to trial on November 15th. And what exactly is he charged with?
He's charged with simple assault, which is basically assault that caused bodily harm that did not cause significant bodily harm and did not include a weapon. But he does have prior criminal charges, at least charges. I'm not sure if they're convictions or not. Mm-hmm. I don't honestly think he'll get in serious trouble, which means that he'll be back doing his idiotic song and dance as soon as the court date is over. But next steps for him are hopefully getting convicted for this assault and having that on his record permanently.
Well, from your lips to God's ears. Once again, I'd like to thank you for coming on The Truth is Viral and sharing your story, and I hope to be able to speak with you again sometime. You have a great day now, brother, okay?
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Yep, it was my pleasure, sir. Have a good night. Okay, so folks, yes, this is very important. What we're doing here to spread the word, and I need your help. Make sure that you subscribe to The Truth is Viral wherever you can find me. Google Plus is gone now. Google had a really serious breach in their security, and they decided, instead of fixing it, that they were just going to do away with the platform altogether. But you can find me on Gab AI, on Twitter at Buddy0353. You can find me on Spreely.com. That's our new gathering place. It's going to replace Facebook. It's a very similar interface. You guys are going to enjoy it. And Spreely is like a contraction for Speak Freely, where you can say anything that you want as long as it's not illegal, violent, or threatening. And threatening in a criminal manner. I should, be specific about that. And if you have the ability, please go to bobpowell.blogspot.com, hit that PayPal button, and help me in my mission to save lives and win souls for Jesus Christ in these very last days. Or alternatively, you can go into the video description below this video and hit the paypal.me/truthisviral link, and that will take you to a direct link to my YouTube and or to my PayPal, and you can donate whatever won't put you out. But remember, if you are on Social Security or disability or something like that, I do not want your money. Simply like, comment, and share the video wherever you can, and that's all I would want you to do. I know how hard it is to live on a fixed income, so just keep your money. Our Father in heaven will bring somebody to our aid, as he did twice this last week. Kept my lights on, literally. Thank you, bud. So thank you for watching The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell. I will see you again Friday night, Red Friday. And until then, as always, God bless, Semper Fi, and hoorah. Yeah, I took my cast off. I can't click the mouse with it. Bye. Good night.
Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter at The Truth is Viral. Like The Truth is Viral on Facebook, and if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com.